What is up, everybody? You already know who it is. It's your boy, Mucho, and we are back with another daily reading from the Holy Scripture. Alright. Today, is day 17. Excuse me. Pardon me. Sorry. We are gonna be covering Genesis 37 to 39 today. Genesis 37 to 39. Shall we begin? Yes, we may. Joseph's early years. Following the basically genealogical account of Esau's family, the Genesis record focuses with greater detail upon Jacob and his descendants, for it is through the descendants of Jacob, now called Israel, that the promised blessings are to come. Taking the leading role in the continuing saga is Israel's son Joseph. Israel's special fondness for Joseph, and perhaps Joseph's own attitude, led to an envy and hatred by Joseph's brothers. Their behavior toward Joseph and toward their own father is hardly worthy of the important positions they will later occupy as the heads of the tribes which together form the nation of God's people. History of Jacob's family. Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph tells on brothers. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending with flocks with his brothers and sons of Bala, and the sons of Zephath, his father's wives, and he had brought their father a bad report about them. Brothers hate Joseph. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age, and he had an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph dreams of sheaves. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We are binding sheaves of grain out in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Joseph dreams of stars. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon, even 11 stars, were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his fathers rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him. His father kept the matter in mind. Joseph said to his brothers. Now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "As you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, and I am going to send you to them." "Very well," he replied. So he said to him, "Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me." Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived to Shechem, he found him wandering around in the field and asked him, "What are you looking for?" He replied, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks?" "They have moved on from here," the man answered. "I've heard they say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. Brothers put Joseph into a pit. They saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these canisters, and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we will see what comes of his dreams." When Reuben heard of this, he tried to rescue him from their own hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. "Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the Christine here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben said to this to rescue him from them, to take him back to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him off of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the canister. Okay. Cistern. The cistern was empty, and there was no water in it. Joseph sold to traders. As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming to Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, lamb, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's send him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. His brothers agreed. So when the Mennonite merchants came by, his brother pulled up Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. Reuben upset a loss. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes and went back to his brothers and said, "The boy isn't there. Where can I turn now?" Israel mourns supposed death. Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in blood. And they took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." He recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. Some vicious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn into pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put it on sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "No," he said, "I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave." So his father wept for him. Joseph sold to Potiphar. Meanwhile, the Mennonites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of the Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, Judah and Tamar. Joseph becomes a slave in an Egyptian household, a most fascinating story is unfolding back in Canaan involving Judah, one of Israel's sons by Leah. It concerns the ancient custom of estates quite foreign to the modern thinking, in which the brother of a deceased man having no children marries the brother's wife, that is, so that the brother's lineage and property as well may continue through a proper line of succession. This grace comes when Onan, one of Judah's sons, goes through the sexual acts with his brother's wife, Tamar, but purposely prevents any offspring from being born. There follows a rather curious story of Tamar, who resolves to bear a children by Judah himself. Judah's marriage. At the time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hira. There, Judah met the daughter of the Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and made love to her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son, who was named Er. I'm going to say Er. She conceived again and gave birth to a son, named him Onan. She gave birth to another son and named him Shelah. It was at Kisbid that she gave birth to him. Onan breaks, Levirate law. Judah got a wife for Er, his firstborn, and got her name was Tamar. But Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Sleep with your brother's wife, and fulfill your duty to set your brother-in-law to uprise offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the child would not be his own, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death also. Tamar promised a husband. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up. For he thought, he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in his father's household. Tamar deceives Judah. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shara, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Tanah to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hira, the Aldamite, went with him. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is on his way to Tanah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enam, which is the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as his wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Not realizing she was the daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." "And what will you give to me to sleep with you?" she asked. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal is your cord, and the staff in your hand," she answered. So He gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Judah unable to find Harlot. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Aldamite in order to get his pledge back from the woman, but he did not find her. He asked the men who lived there, "Where is this shrine prostitute who was beside the Ron and the Anan?" There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her. Besides, the men who lived there said there hasn't been any shrine prostitute here." And then Judah said, "Let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughing stock. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you didn't find her." Judah learns it was Tamar. About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, Bring her out and have her burned to death." As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law, "I am pregnant by the man who owns these." And she said, and she added, "See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her my son Shelah, and he did not sleep with her again. Tamar has twins." When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand, so the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, "This one came out first." But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "So that's how you have broken out?" And he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was named Zerah. The most important aspect of this seemingly insignificant story will come to light only after many centuries have passed. At the time, it will become evident that the descendants of Judah through Perez will become God's messenger to all mankind, the Messiah. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was today's reading. Let's do a quick reflection. Joseph has a son. Jacob has a son, Joseph, who he loves very much. But he also has plenty of other sons. But he loves Joseph the most. Joseph's brothers planned to kill him, but one of his older brothers saved him. But in return, his other brothers took him and sold him to people. And yeah, I don't know. It gets weird. You get sold off as a slave, and then I don't know if he got found. I don't know what's going on. I'm lost. I gotta go over this. I don't know. I gotta review myself again. But yeah, that was today's read. Like I said, I'm gonna review this on my own again. Another day of self-focus. I hope you guys enjoyed today's read, because I did. Alright, so yeah. If you could, go down and hit subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really do appreciate it. I need 1,000 subscribers this month, so yeah. So, you already know who it is. It's your boy, Mucho, and it's time for me to what? Let's get that on out of here. Peace.